नमस्कार, हांव महानंदा पागी. अनुवाद कुशळटायेचे राष्ट्रीय स्तरावयले हे व्याख्यानमाळेक तुमकां सगळ्यांक येवकार दिता. गोंय सरकाराच्या राजभाषा संचालनालयान राष्ट्रीय अनुवाद मिशन, केंद्रीय भाषा संस्थान मैसूर हांच्या जोड पावलान ही व्याख्यानमाळ आयोजीत केल्या. आमी हे व्याख्यानमाळेक अणकारा संदर्भातल्या वेगवेगळ्या आयामां विशीं खोलायेन जाणून घेतली. आयज हे व्याख्यानमाळेचो 6वो दीस. आयज नॅशनल ट्रान्सलेशन मिशन, केंद्रीय भाषा संस्थान मैसूरचे ज्युनियर रिसोर्स पर्सन मिस्टर बिस्वजीत गोगोय हांचे ट्रान्सलेटिंग कल्चर द आर्ट ऑफ चुझिंग ह्या विशयाचेर व्याख्यान जावपाचें आसा. व्याख्यानाचें स्वरूप अशें आसतलें. मिस्टर बिस्वदीप गोगोय हांचे व्याख्यान वरभराचें आसतलें. व्याख्यानाच्या विशया संदर्भात काय प्रश्न असल्यार तुम्ही ते कॉमेंट सेक्शनात घालूंक शकता. व्याख्यान सोंपल्या उपरांत तुमच्या प्रश्नाची जाप आमकां मार्गदर्शक दितले. आता हांव मागता राजभाषा संचालनालयाचे संचालक प्रोफेसर आचार्य सर हांकां की तांणी प्रास्ताविक आनी येवकाराचे उलोवप करचें.
नमस्कार, तुमकां सगळ्यांक येवकार. The Directorate of Official Language is established for development and implementation of official language in the state of Goa. The core competency of the department includes imparting training of basic knowledge of Konkani language, so also assisting various departments of state and central government in translation of various documents including acts, rules, schemes, citizens' charters, etc. The department has also taken the initiative of coining of scientific and technical terms in Konkani language in collaboration with Commission for Scientific and Technical Terminology, New Delhi. Some of these are already published and others are at final printing stage. The department publishes research-oriented books. This department has also taken lectures on basic Konkani language and language orthography. This department is in the process of preparing a basic learner's course in Konkani language and printing it in book form. Since translation work has tremendous potential in the era of social networking and artificial intelligence, it was felt necessary to collaborate with National Translation Mission, Central Institute of Indian Languages, Mysuru, and conduct lecture series as a part of promotion of translation culture and emerging translation industry among the budding translators as well as amateur and professional translators. The lecture series aims to create awareness about translation, develop skills of translation, above all, improve quality of the translation by facilitating the translators to find key to the minds of the author of the material which is translated, retaining the soul of the original work in the body of the translation undertaken by the translators. I am optimistic that this lecture series will benefit the budding translators and will be a turning point in creation of the translation industry. Thank you.
देव बरें करूं सर. आता हांव मागता आमच्या राजभाषा संचालनालयाचे ज्युनियर ट्रान्सलेटर बिंदिया भगत हांचे कडेन की तांणी मार्गदर्शक गोगोय हांचे वावरा विशीं वळख करून दिवची.
नमस्कार, सगळ्यांक येवकार. मैसूरच्या राष्ट्रीय अनुवाद मिशनातले ज्युनियर रिसोर्स पर्सन बिस्वदीप गोगोय आयज आमकां मार्गदर्शक म्हूण लाभले. कल्चरल स्टडीज, कल्चर अँड ट्रान्सलेशन, ट्रान्सलेशन लोकलायझेशन ह्या विशयांनी तांची विशेष रुची आसा. असोमिया संस्कृतीक शब्दकोश आणि भारतीय भाषा ज्योती आसामीज हाचे ते उपसंपादक आसात. शिओमी इंडिया ह्या लोकलायझेशन प्रकल्पा खातीर 2021 वर्सा उत्कृष्ट अनुवादक पुरस्कार तांकां फावो जाला. मायक्रोसॉफ्ट, सॅमसंग आनी हेर संवसारीक पावंड्या वयल्या कंपन्यांच्या उत्पादना खातीर तांणी लोकलायझेशन केला. अणकाराच्या वेगवेगळ्या आयामाचेर तांणी साबार रिसर्च पेपर सादर केल्यात. अनुवाद प्रशिक्षण कार्यावळींनी तांणी ट्रान्सलेटिंग कल्चर, द आर्ट ऑफ चुझिंग अँड ट्रान्सलेशन इंडस्ट्री, ट्रेंड्स अँड प्रॉस्पेक्ट translation tradition in Assamese, कॅटूस, SDR ट्रेडोस अँड क्राउडिंग आणि हेर जायत्या विशयांचेर मार्गदर्शन दिला. आयज बिस्वदीप गोगोय ट्रान्सलेटिंग कल्चर द आर्ट ऑफ चुजिंग या विशयाचेर लेक्चर दितले. देव बरें करूं.
Dev Bari Karu Vindhya. Today, Mr. Biswadip Gogoi will enlighten us on the topic Translating Culture, the Art of Choosing. With a warm welcome, I request you, sir, to guide us on this topic.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And good morning to all. So, as you can see, today the topic is Translating Culture, the Art of Choosing. So, in the first slide, I would like to show you a picture. When I show this picture to different people, they react differently. Actually, this is a picture of a delicacy. This is a food. So some people say that how one can think of eating a dish like this. But this is a delicacy, as I said, and this delicacy's name is NTM-CIIL. It's probably in Chinese, and that literally translates to 3 screams. So, not only in Southeast Asia countries, different parts of the world, even in India, in my state Assam, in the state of Goa, or in Karnataka, where I am now residing currently. So in all these states has typical delicacies, typical food habits. So you can see this picture. This is a silkworm. You know that I come from a place, Assam, that is famous for silk, Muga silk. So after extracting the silk threads, this silkworm, pupa, it is called pupa, the pupa remains. And what we do in Assam, we eat it. So it's a very protein-rich food. So when I first came to Karnataka, I got to know that Karnataka is famous for silk. You may have heard about Mysuru silk. So I asked one of my friends, okay, you produce silk, so what you do with the pupa? Is it available in the market to buy, or you guys eat it, or if you eat it, how you eat it? And my friend was a vegetarian. Later I got to know that she was a vegetarian. She suddenly, said me, how can you think of eating pupa? We don't eat it. He said that we throw it. Then I was not believing her, because I know that a society cannot throw away so much of protein, because this is very protein rich, as I said. So it has to be used somewhere or other in food products. Then I asked my friend, okay, you find out what actually people do with this pupa, with this protein rich food. Then see, after some inquiries, she found out that some food products actually, some companies buy these pupas in bulk, and they mix it with different kind of packet foods like biscuits and others. So we eat it anyway. We may not know, but we eat it. So this picture, you can see it's actually an egg of an ant. It's a slightly bigger size of ant, red ant, and it will build their nest in the trees. So in Assam, we eat it, these ant eggs, especially in the month of April when we celebrate Bihu, that Rongali Bihu. That time we it's a kind of tradition to eat this ant egg. And also, if you may have heard about the celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay. Gordon Ramsay once made a very famous cooking show, The Great Escape. It's based on India and some other South Asian countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and all. So in that series, he showed that he has traveled to a village probably in Jharkhand, interior of Jharkhand, and he was showing that how the indigenous people of Jharkhand make a chutney out of this ant and eggs of the ants. So these are delicacies, and also this is another this thing. This is a snail. This is very commonly eaten in some parts of Assam, and Goa. I don't have to tell you that oyster is a delicacy, right? So we eat. I mean, we come from different culture. We come from different geographies. We eat different kinds of food. But question is not that. Why I'm talking about food to begin with. I just want to bring the idea of ethnocentrism. Once I show this picture to people, some people react that, oh, how this can be eaten. It is impossible to eat this. I understand, okay, our food habits are different, but when we started value judging others, like this should be eaten, this should not be eaten, if we come to that kind of position, and we start thinking that the culture we practice, the food habit we practice is the best, and all others are not up to the mark or inferior in a sense. That idea in our mind that is being formed is called ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism is something when we believe that what we do is the correct thing, right thing, justifiable. So what others are doing may not be. So that kind of thinking, that kind of ideas is called ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism has negative connotation, of course, but it also has positive connotation. Without ethnocentrism, there will not be any cultural group. To form a cultural group, we need to have ethnocentrism. Then what is the opposite of ethnocentrism? It is called cultural relativism. From the name only, we can understand that here we are more lenient, more open. We may not eat something, we may not wear something, we may not sing something, or we may not dance in a particular way, but we are somewhat open to accept other forms of food habits, other forms of uh, textile or handloom practices, such and such. So, cultural relativism is a kind of open approach, while ethnocentrism is a bit closed approach. So now we'll just touch the issue of choice. We all make choices in our life. Every day, from morning to evening, we make choices, different kind of choices: what to eat, how to go, whom to meet, what to talk. Everything we choose, right? We have different options in our mind, and out of those options, we choose one or sometime maybe two. But this cannot be seen by the receiver or the person with whom we are communicating with. So the question is, choice actually is a now big topic for debate and discussion. Uh, in the world now, so many people are talking about choice, and some people say that more choice means more freedom, and more freedom will lead to more welfare. But that is not the ultimate fact or the truth about it. He is mainly trying to explain the official dogma of Western industrial countries. So, I'll give you an example. The basic point is more choice. When you have more choice, it is good or bad. More choices causes paralysis, not liberation. And more choices can lead to more expectations. So some people say that, argue that there should not be a lot of choices. Choice should be limited. But that also has a negative side. So what happens now? We all know that our those small village shops or small shops that sells vegetable and other things like biscuits and other small things are replaced by the malls, big malls. So in the mall you go, and you find that there are 100 types of biscuit. You don't know which one to buy. You have more choices there, 100 choices of biscuit. But you don't know which one to buy because you have never tasted all of them. So you don't have an idea which you like or which you will not like. Or if you want to buy for somebody else, that also you will not know whether the person will like the taste or the flavor. So ultimately what you will do, you will need to spend more time thinking which biscuit to buy. And then after buying the biscuit, when you open the packet and taste it, you will always think that no, probably the other one would have been better. So this way, yeah, it sometimes feels like that more choices, not always good. And more choices can actually cause paralysis, not liberation, not always definitely. And more choices, when you have more choices, you will have more expectations. And when your expectations is not fulfilled, a person is definitely going to be unhappy. So, though it looked like in the beginning that more choices is always good, it is not so. The choice and performance. See, as I said that from morning to evening, we make different kind of choices. And the choices has to do something with the performance, how we perform in our day-to-day life, or in our academic life, or in our working life in the office. So, a American psychoeconomist, a psychoeconomist is a psychologist and come economist. She has done an experiment. Her name is Sheena Iyengar. She has done an experiment. She took small kids. Some are a group of Asian American kids and one American kids, group of American kids. And out of that experiment, she found out that actually this choice, what choice you make, that has to do something with the performance. Like, for example, I would like to say that in Indian culture, the family bonding is very tight. But in US and all, it is not in the Western countries. After 16, if you are with your parents, this will not be something acceptable, or you can be even, publicly shamed for that. But in India, it is very common that we live our whole life with family, if possible, unless we move out to another city. So she found out that in Indian kids, Asian American kids, when they were told that this is chosen by your mother or this is chosen by your father, then they have performed really well. But the American kids, they performed well in those assignments they were given when they have made their own choices. So this proves, she was trying to prove that actually, when we make choices, it depends on our culture. Our culture has to do something with the choice we make. Like in Indian culture, if our mother says a small kid, okay, you should do this, you should not do this, and kid will somewhat follow mother's wish or mother's advice. But in case of Western countries, it may not be so. They are more independent than us. So this is a very interesting experiment. If you want to know about this experiment a bit more, you can go to the TED platform. You may have heard about the TED, TED, Technology, Entertainment, and Design. They have a website. They have lots of lectures by some very good scholars. So you can search for Sheena Iyengar and you will get this experiment. So now we'll come to the question of culture. Culture also includes some abstract ideas like good, right, desirable. Good means what is good for me may not be good for you. What is right for you may not be good for me, may not be right for you. We all have our own good, bad, right, wrong. What is desirable for a society may not be desirable for another society. So we all have our ideas. I mean, our own different ideas. Different societies have different ideas. These are very abstract ideas. So these also, a part of culture. So we'll now come to the concept of interculture. Interculture, this concept is proposed by Anthony Pym. Interculture, he tries to define as the beliefs and practices found in intersections or overlaps of culture, where people combine something of two or more cultures at once. Previously, what was there? Previously, people used to live in small groups, right? Right. So now we live in a big city, and I mean there are mix up of cultures. In a single apartment building, there will be hundreds of families will be living. Somebody is from another culture, or one family is from another culture. I mean, they are from all from. They can be from different cultures, so there will be mix up. I'm not talking about interculture. Is not about that mix up, but interculture is what happens when the society expands, the geographical areas expands. So in the border area of the specific social group, will be touching the neighboring social groups border. So in that border area, there will be trade. There will be other kind of exchanges, trade exchanges, or other kind of even marriage and all can happen. Even they may go to participate in other groups' social functions. All these things will start once the geographical boundary is kind of reduced. So in that kind of places, there will be a formation of a kind of mixed culture. I mean, I'm not sure. I may not prefer to use the word mixed culture, but there will be a kind of formation of a culture that will have elements from both the neighboring culture. So that kind of cultures are actually intercultures. These are now more interesting because in modern day, we could see this kind of cultures more because the geographical boundaries is reduced. People can travel from one place to another very easily. There are no restrictions. But in older days, it was not so. People were living in a very small groups, and there were barely any communications or exchange between those groups. The Pym further says, Anthony Pym, to avoid hasty assumptions of monoculture, I propose that culture to be left undefined as the area where we have most to discover. So Pym also, in a view that we should actually not try to define culture, monoculture especially, not the interculture. So because this is a very abstract idea, and we still don't know everything about it. So it should be better to left it undefined. He explains, uh, actually, Anthony Pym tries to define translation through culture. He says that more exactly, individual cultures can be defined by negotiation, not as the source and target of the text, but as the resistance between the texts. Resistance while, traveling from one text to the another. So what happens? When I pick up a text for translation, suppose it's a Konkani text, I want to translate it to Assamese. So Konkani text will have Konkani culture embedded in it. If I'm translating a Konkani short story or a novel, that novel will have lot of Konkani or Goan cultural element. So if I start translating into Assamese language has so many Assamese cultural element. So I'll find a resistance while I'll try to translate, because those cultural elements to be transferred to Assamese translation. So in that sense, that resistance that will be created by the cultures while translating, he says that actually by that we can define individual cultures. If there are less resistance, then probably there are less difference between cultures. If there are more resistance, then probably they are totally different, the cultures. Then I'll just touch the globalization, because if we talk about culture, we it will be better for us to just touch the globalization. Globalization, we all know what it is. Uh, it's actually economic term, but we started using it in everywhere now. Globalization is a global economic integration of many formerly national economies into one global economy, mainly by free trade and free capital mobility, but also by easy and uncontrolled migrations. It is the effective erasure of national boundaries for economic purpose. So that we all know that now anything made in America can be brought to India and sold. Of course, there are some tax issues, and anything made in India can be brought to Europe and it must be sold. People can move from one country to another very easily for business purposes, for job purposes, or for other purposes as well. So these kind of things create a idea of globalization. But there are different ideas about globalization. Some people try to say that globalization was there, but it is now dead. Some people try to say that no, globalization is there, and now also it was there, now also it is there. And there is another group of people who tries to say that globalization was never there. It's just a made up idea. It was not there at all. So there are different kind of argument why they want to say that globalization was not there. It was not there at all. In the past also it is not there, now also it is not there. They try to point out to the protectionism, the idea of protectionism. So what is protectionism? Protectionism is just opposite to the globalization. Like when we say that internationalization, the opposite word of internationalization is localization. Like that way, globalization, its opposite is protectionism. So what is protectionism? Protectionism is shielding a country's domestic industries from the foreign competition by taxing imports. So what government does, suppose Indian government, what Indian government does? If you want to export something, or not export something, if you want to import something from US, so they will put a 200% tax, for example. So they are actually discouraging the buyer from buying that product. And by doing that, indirectly, they are encouraging the buyer to buy Indian product or the product locally made. Like you see now, there are a lot of debates about it, this taxing and all. If you want to kind of import a very luxury car, so you have to pay some 200% or 400% tax. But if you want to buy a car that is made in India by Maruti or even other companies like Tata or Hyundai, it will be quite less. But if you want to buy a BMW or a Mercedes Benz, that will cost you a lot, and especially those models which are not assembled or made in India. So by imposing tax and other restrictions, the country try to seal their own economy. Otherwise, if people buy the foreign goods, who will buy the domestic goods? So there will be questions. So in this chart, you can see that the number of protectionist measures taken by different countries of the world. So India has, from 2008, India has taken more than 800 protectionist measures. And if you see that only African countries are relatively open, they allow people to import different products from the foreign, different other countries. But you see Russia, India, USA, all these countries actually try to seal their economy, and they tax quite a lot if their citizen want to or tries to import anything from outside the country. So that's why some people argue that it's a death of globalization. This we all know that Brexit, the Britain's exit from the European Union. This is also a protectionist measure. They are trying to seal their economy. I mean, as they have been claiming, that they want to seal their country's economy and other benefits from by doing it, by exiting from the European Union. We all know the symbol, the lion symbol. It's a Make in India logo. So Make in India is also a protectionist measure by the government of India. So we also know this, the America First. This is a campaign of then what was his name, the American president, Donald Trump. Donald Trump used this phrase, America First. So America First, that also a protectionist measure, because Trump was trying to say that so many people coming from outside and taking our jobs, taking our other industries. So we have to give more opportunity to the localites, the Americans, before actually, providing opportunities to the foreigners. So these all are protectionist measures. So the question actually, that's what so many people have been asking, that where is globalization? If different governments of the world is taking so many protectionist measures, then there is no globalization at all. So internationalization. This has to do something with localization, because internationalization is just opposite to the localization. L18N, actually it is written like that in short form. So internationalization refers to increasing importance of international trade, international relations, treaties, alliances, etc. So what happened if you make a product in Goa or in Karnataka? That product need to be marketed internationally. So you have to give some international look to it, international also quality to it. Like for example, I don't know whether it will be proper or not to give this example here, but this will fit here very properly, because I know that Goa is very famous for liquor. Goa has a very famous brand. Recently, it has actually gained quite a lot of popularity all over the world. That is the Paul John brand. So Paul John brand is a Goan brand, but they have marketed and actually they have internationalized their product. And now Paul John is a very famous liquor in all over the world. They have given the look, they have given the taste, they have given the quality, and they have also employed world-class marketing strategies. So that way, they have internationalized their product. And also availability. They have ensured that it is available in different parts of the world and different parts of India. So localization and culture. So localization, we heard this term very frequently. Oh, this company is localizing their product. Like in India now, so many cell phone companies, mobile phone companies, or even this operating software companies like Microsoft, they are actually localizing their products into Indian languages. So localization is actually customization of software to a specific culture and language. So what is done in localization? You pick up a product like Microsoft Windows. Then you try to customize that or adapt that product to a specific culture and language. It is not merely translation. It has so many other things. That's why it is not called translation, it's called localization. This term localization is derived from the word local, which means a small area or vicinity. Today, local is mostly used in a technical context where it represents a specific combination and a combination of language and culture. So if I have to translate, or if I have to localize the Microsoft product or a Xiaomi product or Samsung product or any Google product, so I'll take care of so many other things. It is not merely translation. It is not that I'll simply pick up the source string and I'll translate it to target string. There'll be so many other things, like we'll also have to take care of cultural beliefs, the numbering system, the date format, the time format, the address format, And also you have to see if some word is abusing for a specific culture, then we have to remove those words. So it's a quite big kind of approach than a mere translation, because it has to do with the popularity of product, because the product has to be sold in the target market. So all those things will be taken care of. Like also another big issue with the now Indian languages are font, then scripts. Some languages are written in 4-5 scripts, like Konkani is a great example. Konkani is written in Roman, Devnagari, Kannada. So all these kind of things will be taken care of in localization. So this is slightly broader than the idea of translation. So if you can see, I just picked up this para from the Microsoft MS Localization Style Guide. It says that geopolitical concerns, part of the cultural adaptation of US product to a specific market, is the resolving of geopolitical issues. While the US product should have been designed and developed with neutrality and a global audience in mind, we localize the localized product should represent to the particular situation that applies within the continues. So what they try to emphasize that when a product is localized, it's a US made product, suppose Microsoft is a US company. So when they make Windows, they try to make it kind of, okay, it should be acceptable to acceptable universally. I mean, they try to give it a universal look or universal feel, but sometimes still there will be small here and there. I mean, there need to be, I mean, those need to be changed. Like as I said, the date format and this one, some abusive words. Then there will be some other cultural thing. So in the localization, all these things will be taken care of. Like translator has to, of course, he has to translate from English to his own language. Like it may be Konkani, it may be Assamese, it may be Kannada, it may be Marathi, but also he has to take care of those cultural issues. Like he has to change the date format, he has to change the address format, all those things. Like for example, I can give you an example of this word hello. So hello or hi. So those things will be localized, how we say in our language. We don't say hello. In India, mostly we say namaskar. So it will be like that. So those things will be taken care of in the localization. So culture and translation. So I just would like to talk about Peter Newmark here, because he also brought the idea of cultural words. We'll come to that later. Peter Newmark, you can see his picture here. Peter Newmark defined culture as the way of life and its manifestation that are particular to a community that uses a particular language as its means of expression, thus acknowledging that each language group has its own culturally specific features. So Peter Newmark, he actually trying to propose that there are 4 stages of translation. While you undertake a translation work or you want to translate something, there will be 4 stages. In the first stage, it is the textual level. And in this level, the translator will mostly focus on the syntax and the transference of the sentence structure from source to the target language. We'll read the text again and again. We'll see the sentence structure in the source, and we will also, as a translator, we will try to think that how to actually transfer that source text to the target language. Then second is the referential level. In the referential level, the translator decodes the meaning of the source text and refers to the words to the represented concepts. Here we will go a bit deeper. We will try to think about the meaning. What is the meaning of the source text? Whether it has multiple meanings, whether it has specific meanings, what kind of concept it may represent, whether those concepts can be as it is transferred, or it's even sometimes it may need some kind of modification, because as I said that the text may be very much cultural specific. So then, after decoding of the meaning, the translator will start searching for the proper words in the target language. So what are the words in that specific language has to actually represent the source sentence or source text, so that it can be transferred accurately and clearly. Then third and fourth level is cohesive level and level of naturalness. Third level, cohesive level, the translator will consider vast range of grammatical and lexical relationships. And fourth level, translator will read it, go through once and once again to actually make the text more reader friendly, more readable, more natural. So this is how Peter Newmark sees the process of translation. Then cultural turn in translation. Actually, before 1980s, translation is considered to be a more or less, mostly a language related activity. But in 1980s, Susan Besnet and Andrew Lefebvre, they brought an idea, they have proposed it, or they have started a debate that is called, or that is termed as cultural turn in translation. So they said that no, it is not merely a language related activity. It has to do so many more than that. Culture is a very integral part to be considered while translating something from a source language to target language. So culture actually plays a quite crucial role in the process of translation. And after that, translation debate is now no longer in terms of how to translate.
Dr. Joy.
So many people ask this question, okay, how to translate a text? So translation debate is no more that. Now, actually, the debate has or discussion has moved to three factors: who is translating, why is translating, and when it is being translated. So you may see that sometime, okay, some person is translating a book. I would like to give you an example here. That is that in 2014, when our current PM, Prime Minister Modi, he was elected as a Prime Minister, there is a small booklet published. It's like Bal Narendra, if I remember correctly. So Bal Narendra was that time published, and the book was later on. I read a news that the book was sold in thousands and lakhs of copies, because uh, that time, even now, Prime Minister Modi is quite popular. So he has quite a wide mass acceptance. So after that, it was not end there actually. Bal Narendra, the small booklet was translated into various Indian languages and it is sold. So question is who? See, there may be different motive. We are not going to discuss the motives here. We just want to see here that somebody maybe out of sheer business interest must have done that. He may not have anything to do with whether he is a part of the ruling party or not. Those things are different. But even a good businessman can actually do this, because the person is very popular. So let's make a book on him, a small comics type book, and make it available in different languages across India or even across world. So and sell it and make profit. But this translation debate, who, why, and when, also has to do something with the ideology. So some people try to propagate some specific ideology. Then what they do, they will pick up a book or a text that is very much nearer to that ideology, and they will try to translate it and publish it. By publishing, they can reach they can reach many more people. So it has to do with the ideology also. What we believe, all believe in some or other kind of ideology. So if I want to propagate, or if I want to kind of popularize my ideology, the easiest way is to actually pick up a book, translate it, and circulate it. So context, that's why context became more crucial in explaining or comprehending a translation. Though people say that, okay, I mean, even Derrida said that Derrida's death of an author. But in case of translation, it is more crucial to know who is translating, why he is translating, what is the background, what is the context. Unless we understand that, we may not be understanding, or we may not be able to comprehend the translation. So translation is an ideological reproduction of a source language text. Therefore, the meaning of the translation goes beyond the source text. What Newmark actually, he has proposed two opposing methods while translating cultural words and notions. The first one is transference. In transference, I mean, the translator gives local color, keeping the cultural name and concept. And componential analysis, exclude the culture and highlight the message. So what a translator do? Suppose I am translating a book from Konkani to Assamese. So the Konkani book talks about Goan culture. So while translating all this Goan cultural element, I'll try to convert it to Assamese. I mean, something related to Assamese culture. But while doing that, I'll trying to what I'll do as a translator, I'll give the local color. I'll keep all this cultural description, but I'll change the cultural names and concept. That's how the transference work. Goan culture that is depicted in a book will be translated into Assamese, and I'll change those cultural depiction into something related to Assamese culture. And componential analysis, it exclude the culture and highlight the message. If I use this method, then I'll try to exclude the cultural part there, because they are not important for me as a translator, and only I'll highlight the message that the text wants to convey. And Lawrence Venuti also proposes two types of strategies. One is domestication and another is foreignization. Domestication, where target language TL culture will be dominating, and foreignization, where the source language culture will be dominating. But there are different scholars who try to give different ideas about it. One Nico Warsema mentioned that TT can be written more foreignizing manner, wherein culturally bound elements are not translated. He tried to say that if I translate a text from Konkani to Assamese, then I should not change anything that talks about Goan culture, because by that way, Assamese people will be able to know the Goan culture. So he said that this actually helps the reader to understand the foreign cultures. So here is some example. I'll go to the second example. It is a word called Bhutaradhane. You may have heard about this term because this is a Tulu kind of ritual. Tulu is a community. They are living in the kind of Mangalore region, and this is a coastal Karnataka region. So Bhutaradhane. Bhutaradhane is a small ritual performed by the Tulus of Karnataka. So when the Europeans came, Europeans, especially the missionaries came, then they try to actually, translate the word Bhutaradhane. Bhutaradhane is a combination of two words. One is Bhuta and plus Aradhane. So they have translated the word as devil worship. But if you go and see this ritual or the function, it is nothing to do with that devil or the ghost. Even now, you see, I just took up two screens from one has been written in, both are written in 2008, and still people are using devil worship. This is a classic example of mistranslation, because here we have gone by the word only. Bhuta means okay, devil or the ghost. Aradhana is worship. So that's how it is translated. But probably the translator or the people who have been writing has never actually, experienced the actual ritual. It has nothing to do with ghost or the devil. Here, Bhuta means the spirit, the ancestral spirits. So they call that ancestral spirits or the spirits or their family gods, family deities as Bhuta. They referred. So this is a classic example of mistranslation. So what we have to do as a translator, probably we can retain the word Bhutaradhane. We don't try to translate it as devil worship or even spirit worship or even family deity worship. That is not necessary. We can simply say that it is a Bhutaradhane, and if needed, we can provide a footnote or even an endnote or whatever. Or if we want to explain a bit with a small line, we can even put it in the bracket. But translating this kind of cultural word is very tricky, because this is a cultural word. Then other issues, while I personally, I also translate quite a lot. So when I translate, I find a lot of problem translating kinship words, because kinship is a very, translating kinship word is a very tricky thing. As you can see the cert here, I could not bring some Konkani example, but Hindi example is there, and Kannada also very nearby language to Konkani. So while you see here, for one English source term, sister, in Assamese we have two terms. Hindi we have two terms, Tamil we have two terms. Like for brother, English has only one term, Assamese has two terms. But for uncle, in English, there is only one word, uncle. So we have four terms. I'm sure Konkani also is similar. For auntie, one English word, we have four terms. So yeah, English, they will say that maternal uncle, paternal uncle, they may say like that. But still, paternal uncle, then also it is two words, but it is not a single word, it's a combination of words. So the biggest problem I find while translating from English, sometimes they will say that uncle gave him something. So I don't know which uncle he's talking about, because in Assamese, we don't, we will not write it as uncle. We have to write, we have to define which uncle it is. It's a maternal uncle, paternal uncle, elder or younger, from mother's side or father's side. All these things has to be, known by the translator, or he should determine it. Sometimes, as a translator, I have to read the text again and again just to find out which uncle actually being referred to, whether he's a paternal or maternal, whether he's an elder or younger. Because what happens when paternal uncle, maternal uncle, younger or elder will be addressed by somebody, the tone of the language will be different, right? We'll come to that later. Next slide, probably. So what happens? You see, that's what. No, I'll come to this first. This joking relationship. This is a very interesting idea, interesting concept. Like in our society, we think that this father's father means grandfather. Then mother's brother means mama, especially the younger one. Maternal uncle, younger maternal uncle. And wife's sister Wife sister is Sali in Hindi. So this with those people, we think that we have that relationship will be is called, and in anthropology called, it is joking relationship. There will be more fun in those relationships. You can go and make fun with your Sali, wife sister. You can demand anything from your mama. You can climb on him. The small kid aram se climb on him, and they'll be see mama will be carrying him on his shoulder. Then father's father means grandfather. Grandfather will be telling a story. Small kids, from the small kids to even the grown-up kids, will demand anything from father's brother or even father's mother. So these but you cannot do the same thing with your father and mother. What you can do with your mother's brother or father's brother, you cannot do the same thing with your because these are restrictions, social restrictions. But kinship this kind of arrangement will allow you to have joking relationship with these specific persons, specific relations. So when you, and these relations can be different in different cultures. My society may not allow me to do any funny things with my mother's brother or mama, but some culture may do. So what happened when I'm translating a text? Suppose that there is a story, and story talks about, oh, that boy has gone and done so many nasty things, or so many he made so many jokes of his mama and all. But if that joking relationship doesn't exist in my culture, so it will be a problem as a translator for me to translate, because my society doesn't allow that. I have to be very formal with my mama. So how to transfer that? So I have to probably change the tone, or I have to keep it same as it is and say that, okay, this was translated from this language and this culture has this, so we are retaining like this. Something has to be done. So there I mean, quite a lot of issues, I mean, problem we may face while actually translating these cultural words and notions. Then I'll just refer to this Kalidasa's one story which I like very much personally. We all know about Kalidasa, one of the celebrated poet in Vikramaditya's court. The choice, I mean, what I have been talking about, the choice, this actually reflects the idea of choice. So once what happened, Raja Vikramaditya, some courtier, I mean, some poet from his court gone to Vikramaditya and complained that, okay, you give more importance to Kalidasa. You give more prizes, more kind of different kind of the jagiri they give, that kind of to Kalidasa, but we are also no less than him. So you are not recognizing our talent. You are more into, I mean, recognizing his talent, Kalidasa's talent. So then Vikramaditya said that, okay, let me take a test. Let me conduct a test. Then he put a small piece of wood and asked the poets, okay, please explain what you can see. Then they have said that Suskam Kashtam Tistati Agre. I mean, dry wood is lying in the front. Then Vikramaditya invited Kalidasa and Kalidasa asked him, okay, Kalidasa ji, you say what you can see. Then Kalidasa, then he said that Nirasa Tarubara Purata Bhage, lifeless part of the tree lying in the front of me. So I'm not sure whether the Sanskrit part is correct, because I was trying to jot down from my memory. I read it long back, maybe some 20 years back, or maybe 25 years back. I read this story. So I just try to jot down from my memory. So I'm not sure the Sanskrit part is correct or not. But this is a very, I mean, kind of interesting story that I still remember. The choice of word. The same thing is said in two different ways. But What matters is how we choose the word, and how we choose the word will be determined by the culture we are brought in, or that has been part of us. So that's how culture plays a very crucial role. But there is another there is another interesting quote I would like to give you. That is, all translations seem to me simply an attempt to solve an impossible task. So there are so many scholars who said that translation is not possible, impossible. It's an impossible task. Every translator is doomed to be done by one of two stumbling blocks. He will either stay too close to the original at the cost of the taste and the language of his nation, or he will adhere too closely to the characteristics peculiar to his nation at the cost of the original. What we do when we translate, if I am translating a Konkani book to Assamese into Assamese, so I have two choice in front of me. One is that I'll stay closer to the Konkani text. I'll try to keep all the cultural elements and notion that is there in the Konkani book, and I'll translate it to Assamese. But sometimes what I'll do, I'll read the Konkani book, try to understand it, then I'll try to change all cultural elements and notions into something from my culture, then I'll write it down. So these two process is there, two way of doing a translation is there. Sometimes translator will be confused, but some people also try to say that, okay, you take the medium course, you try to balance it. So, but that is not possible. The medium between the two is not only difficult, but downright impossible. We have to go either way. Either I have to, as a translator, I have to stick to the original. I have to just convey the culture or the culture and other cultural elements that is depicted in the source and transfer it to the target. Or I have to change all the notions and some kind of adaptation I have to do. I have to find out some similar cultural elements in my own culture and change those things so that reader can easily understand it or and relate to it. So to balance it, I mean, okay, I'll try to balance. I'll keep this also a bit, that also a bit. It is not only difficult but downright impossible. And that will also sometimes destroy the beauty of the text. So we all have heard about the Robert Frost and Joseph Brodsky. Robert Frost, definitely we have heard. Robert Frost said that, okay, very famously he said that Robert Frost, that poetry lost in translation. Right, the Robert Frost, I mean, from there, this is a very famous quote. So we all know him. He is a very famous poet. But there is another person, Joseph Brodsky. He is also a Nobel laureate. He said that no, it is not poetry who lost in translation. He said that poetry gains in translation. So by translating a text or a poetry, actually the poetry gains many more versions of explanation. I mean, it will gain. I mean, there will be multiple layer of meaning will be invented while translation, and accordingly, it will be more rich. So it is not that poetry lost in translation; it always gains in translation. So this is a two interesting kind of opposing ideas. So I talked about Sina Iyengar, and you can check her in TED Talks. So Sina Iyengar in her TED Talk said that when it comes to the choice, we have far more to gain than to lose by engaging in many translations of the narratives. Instead of replacing one story with another, we can learn from and reveal in the many versions that exist and the many that have yet to be written. No matter where we are from and where your narrative is, we all have a responsibility to open up ourselves up to a wider area of what choice can do and what it can represent. And this does not lead to paralyzing moral relativism. Rather, it teaches us when and how to act. So, so it is not that, okay, I mean, see, it is not that there has to be one translation for a text. There can be thousands versions of translation. That's how I personally believe that there is no good translation, there is no bad translation. There is no right translation, there is no wrong translation. But there is only translations. So for a single source text, there can be multiple hundreds of thousands of translations. Yeah, I'm not here. I mean, I'm not talking about that we should accept all the version that has a lot of spelling error, grammatical error. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about idea-wise. I read a text, I understand. You read a text, you also understand. But my understanding of the text and your understanding of the text may not be similar. So it will differ. So when I translate the text, I'll translate it according to my understanding, and you will translate it according to your understanding. So these two versions of the translation may not be similar. Not may not be, it will not be similar. Always it will not be similar. So it will be completely two different versions. That's why you see that one single text sometimes is translated again and again and again and again. But still, all the versions are very well taken by the readers. They are all accepted versions. So it is not that one person is wrong or right, another person is correct or incorrect. There is no such things. So it's all about interpretation, how we try to see, how we try to understand, and how we try to perceive things. So I mean, I will actually end my talk with a small joke. Um, this joke always, I mean, kind of very amusing for me. I always think over this joke, and this is a very, very famous joke. Actually, we have a lot of people from Goa in this presentation. So what happened in a Goan bar? An Indian, an American, and one Chinese is sitting and drinking beer. So what happens? The American, he suddenly took out his iPhone and put it in the glass of beer. Then Indian and the Chinese were telling that, no, why you are actually doing this? He said, that, no, our country is very rich. Technologically, we are very reaching nothing. I can destroy iPhone just like that. These guys are little taken back. Then American is saying, recently in my country, our engineers has developed a new technique by which we actually build bridges on our rivers. What we do, we try to build the bridge from both the sides at the same time. Okay, one bank they will start building, other bank also they will start building. Then the bridge will meet in the middle. And they said that our calculations are so perfect, our engineers are so brilliant, there will be no here and there at all. So we actually can build very strong and beautiful bridge by that way. Then Chinese, Chinese are also quite brilliant in technology and all. So Chinese then reacted. He said that, see, it's not only you, we also learn so many new scientific technique. So our engineers now build bridge in a different way. Then American asked, okay, what is the new way you actually adopted? Then Chinese said that we now build bridge from the middle. We start in the middle, then we start building to the both the side. Then once we reach both the side, then bridge is ready, and we by that way we build very strong and beautiful bridges. Then now the Indian has to say something. Then he starts saying that, okay, I mean, I don't know how to say this, but still I want to say, we also tried to build the bridges in American way. We tried actually building from both the side. We start building both the side and side, and we go and go and go on. But there are some problem because maybe in the calculation or something, the bridge didn't meet in the middle. And then Americans laughing, oh, then your all money gone waste and all. So then Indians are saying, no, no, actually we didn't stop there. Though our bridges didn't meet in the middle, we didn't stop there. We kept building unless we reached the other side. And by that way, we got not only one, but we got two strong and beautiful bridges. So I believe translation is also like that. It's a two-way process, and it's kind of a building bridges. So we should not stop in between. It may not meet the. I mean, it is not possible to meet the source text and target text will have a lot of differences, and there will be a lot of versions, as I said that. But we have to keep building bridges, and we have to bring out different versions because India is known for its diversity. So by translating and something into a very different versions, we can actually ensure that this diversity will carry on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. You explained us very nicely about localization and other factors which will help us in our translation. So I request you for your final comments.
I don't have final comment as such, but I always believe that okay, I mean translation is the probably only way we can connect with each other. To know about Goa or to know about Maharashtra, I need to actually go through some Goan or Maharashtrian texts, and that can be only possible by a translation, because not all of us know all the language, and it is humanly not possible to know all the languages. So, to know about something, to know about somebody's culture, the only way is the translation. So, without that, I think it will be very tough for us.
Thank you, sir. Tomorrow on 3rd September, we have session by Chief Resource Person of National Translation Mission, Mr. Vincent Cruz, on the topic computer-aided translation. आता हांव मागता आमच्या खात्याच्या ज्युनियर ट्रान्सलेटर सुजीत नायक हांचे कडेन की तांणी उपकाराचे उलोवप करचें.
Namaskar. On behalf of Directorate of Official Language, I take this opportunity to propose vote of thanks to the speaker, Mr. Biswadip Gogoi, who have delivered a lecture on translating culture, the art of choosing, organized by our department. At the outset, I thank our resource person and the officer in charge of NTM and the supporting staff of NTM-CIIL. We are really enlightened with your knowledge and experience which you have shared throughout this lecture series. We are thankful to Government of Goa, Secretary of Official Language, our Honorable Minister for Official Language, and so also a big thank to our Director, Assistant Director for their enthusiastic support and our office colleagues too. Our heartfelt thank to all the participants for active participation in this lecture series. I thank live streaming partner Palasharni Studios, the press and other media for giving a wide coverage. With these warm words and a kind message, we move to the end of today's lecture. Thank you. Dev Barikuru.